Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, joined by my friend and teammate who is a regular on the channel here in Veiled Shot. And it's been a while, probably a month or two, since I went through and made sure to keep this Immortal sets tier list up to date so that people can get an idea of which classes are using which sets and how that set piece meta is evolving, especially with how crazy it is to grind dungeons. You want to make sure you're doing the right ones and getting the right pieces. But yeah, we're just going to get this caught up here with Veiled Shot. So let's get into it. Alrighty, how we doing today, Veiled?
Doing pretty good. And I actually just thought of something when you were talking in that intro there. I think this last was updated before we even got access to 6-piece set items, really. Like, we didn't really test those out. So we have a lot of things to change here.
Yeah, exactly. And like I was waiting to kind of finish our code of being able to get things like this on the website more streamlined. And we're close, within a week or two of that, hopefully. And so I was kind of waiting to update this until then, but I didn't want to leave this like 2 months out of date, because we always do like the classes tier list and the gems tier list, and the sets one makes sense. We might as well in the same week go ahead and get that up to speed. Now I did add the new set at the bottom, the Gloomguides, and I just put everything as a C, and then we can go through and rate that later. And also the locations on here are probably off. I have to add in the new dungeon, and I have to get everything kind of situated, and we want to make a fancy infographic showing all of the sets, their tier list rankings, and their location, and where you can find them, and make a checklist. Veiled developed one of those for his own. That is a great resource, and we're working on kind of streamlining that. But for now, we're just going to go through, talk about the meta, the sets meta, get them ranked, and at least have an accurate rating out there. So if you're good to start, I'm good, and we can just kick it off with Barons and kind of work our way down. Or if you have any general overarching thoughts you want to talk about first, that's fine.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things in here after experiencing, because I've officially played all 6 classes here, and I would say that definitely with the addition of like the additional 2-piece sets, where you can have 6-piece or 4+2, it's changed a lot of ratings for me, because you might have a set like I'm just looking at Shal'baas here. We can go down right after this, but for example, like Shal'baas is actually one of the key pieces, but you want a 2-piece on it because there's not really a good 2-piece to pair with your preferred 4-piece, which is your Vithus, because you want a 4-piece Vithus. So then that's when Shal'baas becomes like an actually good set for Barb. Whereas beforehand, you're like, okay, well, I only have 4 pieces. So, I'm going to run 4-piece Vithus, and everything else is kind of way worse. But starting off with Barons, I think that for the most part, I kind of agree with most of what's here. You might be able to bring up the monk for feasting barons a decent amount, because they got a lot of stuns, they got a lot of things to cause loss of control. But after that, I'm not a huge fan of it on satyr. B is fine, everything else kind of makes sense for that for the most part. It's also a little interesting because they changed the wording on it, I think, to total loss of control, and that means like fears, stuns, and things like that are the only things that really apply. And so let's say you have like a barb knockup, it doesn't even apply. So I like where it's at right now.
Yep. Okay, cool. And yeah, these are going to be mostly my rankings. So in this video, it's probably going to be trying to figure out where Veiled agrees or disagrees, because I've already obviously kind of put my thoughts on paper. So yeah, go ahead and feel free to going back to your point about Shal'baas, we almost need to have on the rankings like 2, 4, 6 for each class, like 3 lines for each class, because like Shal'baas might be S for barbarian on 2-piece, and then 4 and 6 might be like C.
Agreed. Yeah, that's definitely something to consider, because it's oftentimes you don't run a 6-piece set. There's only a few classes that you really want to run a 6-piece set. It's oftentimes 4-2. That's usually what it is. So there are a lot of classes that are like, okay, you really want this combo, but then you could run a 6-piece set, but it's just going to be a little bit worse than the combo. So yeah, agreed, 100%.
Okay, cool. I'll work on getting that changed for the next month or next time, whatever, that we update all the tier list type stuff. But we'll hopefully have that done. Okay, Grace of Flagellant was always kind of like something that was great for wizards, but didn't get a whole lot of use at other places. Is that still kind of the thing in your mind?
So Grace is one of those sets where it really changed from 6-piece sets. The 4-piece set is good on a lot of classes. The 2-piece set's a little awkward on some classes, and the 6-piece set is where it comes of interest. I think that when you're talking about PvP, Grace becomes one of the best sets for a lot of classes because of the burst damage. And I think you could bump up Demon Hunter and Barb up to a B for sure. You might even be able to bump Monk up to a B. The thing with Grace is that, to me, you don't want to rely on a 40-second cooldown on your 6-piece set in PvE. It's not going to be good. You'd rather run your Shal'baas, you'd rather run your Vithus for like those classes. But for PvP, having that burst hit every once in a while just to one-shot someone is actually pretty solid. So I think B and then A and S in some cases for the Satyr and Wizard is completely fine because they do shine from those classes.
Okay, cool. And then Isatar. So movement speed, damage increase, soul orbs, looking like really we used to think really good on Satyr and then like decent other places.
Yeah, I think this has kind of dropped in my opinion because of how powerful I realized 4-piece Vithus is. So I'd say probably A on Satyr, probably B on Necro, B on Demon Hunter. I think A on Barb is fine. So something like that I think is completely fine. It's still good on Satyr because you're still getting that speed buff. You're still increasing your damage. It's still good on Barb for that speed buff. For 4-piece, I'm actually not a huge fan of the 6-piece at all on this set. I would never run it.
Yep, I agree. That is a really lame 6 bonus with the soul orb every 10 seconds when an enemy is killed. Yeah, and it just has like hardly any value in PvP. And then shepherds. So obviously with the necromancer summons, it's always kind of like something they go to.
Yes, and Shepherds is very, very good. And there's something that I've been considering. I didn't do a crazy amount of testing on this when I was playing Necro, but I know a lot of Necros out there have tested out Vithu's 4-piece, and they found that in a lot of scenarios when you don't need that straight upfront burst, Vithu's actually does better for you on Necro because Shepherds has that cooldown on the 6-piece set for your Frenzy. Which can make it awkward in some of the longer fights. It's possible that it could be an A for Necro. It's definitely not an A for Monk, I would say. It's probably like a B. It's still solid for your Mystic allies, potentially. But yeah, I don't know about Shepherds anymore, based on some people talking about the Necro. I don't know where to place that one.
Okay, I dropped it down a tad for now, and then we'll leave that. Now, Mountbank has always been just so insane. I know we see it all the time in Rite of Exile and in the Vault, and it's just an absolute nightmare to deal with. So we always have that rated high. Are S's still fair there? Should we bump other ones to A or anything like that?
Yeah, so this set, I would say that it's really, really, when you're looking at this set, it's about PvP, right? Like that's where you're going for this set. And if we're looking at it from that lens, it's 100% S tier on all the melee classes. I would even say you could use 2-piece and 4-piece potentially on Wizard and Necro, so it might be A for those classes. Demon Hunter might be a little awkward. When you're talking about PvE, maybe it drops a little bit, but I think this is one of those sets where you do want a copy of this for every class pretty much in your stash for sure.
Yeah, we almost need to add like a little description or notes side to the right where we kind of talk about some of that stuff, and I can think about doing that as well. Now, Vithu's obviously an amazing set. We had it for a C on Wizard. Does that need to be bumped up?
It does. So I've used it. This is one of those sets where I actually absolutely loved a 4-piece Vithus with a 2-piece Grace. I did a bunch of testing with this on the Wizard, and it's. I don't think it's as good as Grace in a lot of scenarios, but then in a lot of scenarios, I do like it a little bit more. So I think an A is a fine rating. Necro, it might even be an S for Necro because of some people that were testing it. You know, I'm not a Necro player anymore, so I can't 100% confirm, but what I've heard is that it does increase your summon attack speed, which ends up being a very, very powerful ability. Satyr, obviously just increasing your attack speed with the banner amplification as well, and you just get some absurd combos with crit chance and attack speed increase. And then you have Demon Hunter, Barb, you're going to want an S on Barb. Monk, you could even put an S on Monk because of the inner sync damage buff that's going to increase attack speed. I literally think this is the best set in the game, bar none, for 99% of content. The only exception would be when you're talking about PvP. And in that case, you can even still run this if you're in a coordinated group. It'll still do some excellent stuff for you.
Yeah, I agree with like best overall set. If I had to pick one overall set just for Diablo Immortal content, I would go with Vithu's as well. Shal'baas, we always thought this was like ridiculous for the Demon Hunter. Obviously, Demon Hunters with their gliding primary attacks. We had it a little bit low for other classes though.
I think for Barb, you can bump it up to at least an A tier. I like this set a lot paired with a 4-piece Vithus because you have attack speed amplifiers in Vithus and your basic, which will work really well with the 2-piece set. For every other class, it's a little awkward because the 4-piece set is basically never useful unless you're playing a Demon Hunter. And so you're really focusing on the 2-piece. And when you're talking about 2-piece, oftentimes I'd rather just want a different set. So I think this is fine. Demon Hunter definitely wants that 2-piece Shal'baas though, for sure.
Yeah, the primary attack fire on the DH is obviously going to shine. And then Windloft, looks like DH and Wizard, but other than that, pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, you could even probably drop that down to a B. I'm really not a huge fan of this set. Especially considering that even if you're ranged, you're still going to take those straight hits of damage. And when you take a point of damage, it just removes the set. Like, why would I want to run that instead of, I don't know, a Vithus or a Grace set or a Shal'baas that is just permanently active?
Yeah, that's the thing is when you're ranking these, it's not just in a vacuum. It's an opportunity cost because it's like, okay, if I run Windloft, I'm losing this set. So you do have to kind of rank it versus what am I giving up if I run this on a wizard? And oh, I'm giving up Grace. So like, oh no, obviously it's going to be a C then. Like I don't want to do that. So yeah, you do have to kind of take all of that into consideration as well. And then we get to the new set that we haven't even talked about yet officially in a video, like ranking it. By the way, again, just a reminder, don't go by the locations and be like, oh my gosh, I farmed Rapids thinking I was going to, so don't go by the locations and then blame me. I have to get that updated. We're just going with the tiers right now. So where would you go with Gloomguides, and then I'll let you know where I agree or disagree.
So the one thing I'll say, like a little caveat before I even mention anything, is that I'm not 100% sure what skills actually work with it. I've done a little bit of testing on the Monk as well as the Demon Hunter because I have a 2-piece set, so I can test it a little bit. And things like Escape, Daring Swing ended up working for it. And then for the Monk, a couple dashes that I tried. I don't know if things like Teleport work with Gloomguides. I don't know a couple of those things. So what I will say is that I really, really like it on Barb, especially in a lot of scenarios where you're in PvP. What's awkward about it is that in PvP, you kind of want that Mountbanks, you kind of want that Vithus. But if you're running that crit chance amplifier and you Furious Charge in, you can actually kind of one-shot someone as well as fearing them with a 6-piece Gloomguides. I think there's some PvP potential in that set. So maybe like a B tier for Barb. For Demon Hunter, I would say that this one is a little awkward.
Let me do it, and then you tell me if you agree or disagree. We'll see if we come. We'll see if we can think of the same thing here. I'm gonna assume that it works with Teleport. But let's see. Necro.
B for Barb, B for Wizard so far.
Let's see. I'm gonna go. I guess C. Monk. That's where I would go. Like if you asked me to do it. So now you can let me know where you disagree.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the only thing with Demon Hunter is what's awkward about it is you don't really want a 6-piece because you don't want to Daring Swing into enemies. That's what makes it a little awkward. For
Same
Demon
thing
Hunter,
I was thinking with Wizard.
right?
It's like I don't really want to jump into the fray as Wizard, so
Exactly. So it might even be like a C tier because it's like, do I really want to do that in PvP? I'm not sure. I'm not very convinced on that. I do think it's actually solid for Monk and Barb. The problem with Satyr is that there's not really a build that I would run where I'm running a lot of dashes to proc this often enough.
Exactly.
So
I was thinking in my head, like Horse has a long cooldown, and like, do I really want to So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I think that's fine. I think Monk is the clear choice for what you want to use this on. If you're running a CC bot Monk, where you're just like dashing in trying to knock up people, the fear is actually incredibly useful because you'll charge and you'll knock people up and you'll get that fear out, which is actually interesting. So yeah, I'm not convinced about this set because in PvE, the amount of duration you get doesn't make up for the sets that you lose. And then in PvP, you're only really looking at like the CC ability of the 6-piece set if you want to run that, because the crit chance and the damage isn't good enough, in my opinion, to run it over the other sets.
Yep. Okay, cool. Then I'm kind of in agreement there, and we'll have to test what abilities it works with. It better work with teleport. Like it should just be mobility skills. So I don't. Yeah. I mean, I guess technically you'd say teleport isn't a dash because you like completely disappear and you appear somewhere else. A dash would be, you know, something where you like get a burst of speed, like with the barb sprint or something. But yeah, I don't know. It is kind of weird how they choose to word it. So is there anything else we need to discuss as we wrap up, or are we gonna kind of leave it there for this iteration of the set tier list updating?
Yeah, well, I'll say this, and that is to me, there's usually like one combination of sets that you're going to want on your class, and then there might be some modifications you can make for PvP. And that's kind of how I view sets. You know, for Demon Hunter, it's going to be that Vithu Shal'baas combo. For Wizard, it's going to be that Grace Vithu's combo potentially. That's kind of what I'm looking at when I'm looking at these sets. And then when I'm thinking about like Feasting Barons or Mountbanks or even Gloomguides, I'm looking, okay, in a scenario where I can change, you know, my build for PvP, is this going to be useful? And that's kind of how I look at these sets, because at the end of the day, it's like PvE really is the highest priority, and then PvP is kind of like, okay, maybe I'll participate, and you got some options there.
Yeah, it's weird how that works, how that whole dynamic works, because like the only time you're truly tested is when you PvP. But most of what we do is PvE in terms of like managing our accounts. And so, yeah, it's a weird how that dynamic kind of works, because, yeah, I don't know. If you're in a good group, does it really matter like what your min-maxed build is? Like if you're in a 4-person group doing dungeons, I mean, I guess you could do it in 310 instead of 330, you know, which can add up over time, but.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter for open world farming, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You're running in a group, you just.
But I don't know if open world farming is going to be the meta anymore. This might be a different topic for a different video. I don't know, because they buffed the XP of dungeons, and then they added like the wisps and the crafting of the sets. I don't know that it's going to be the meta to like open world farm anymore.
Yeah, potential video. Should we be allowed to craft our specific legendary items?
There you go. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll have to get with Darth. He ditched us for this video. The guy thinks he's important enough to go live stream or something, but
I guess, yeah, I mean, we're just not cool enough.
Yeah, we're not cool enough for Darth. He's got a big head over there, biggest Diablo Immortal creator now, so we'll have to give him a hard time and have him join us next time. But yeah, anyway, I will link to Veiled's channel down below. Always cranking out good Diablo Immortal content over there on his channel. And yeah, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, peace.